Yes, sir. Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir. Okay, in the previous class, we have discussed that how to run a program, and if we create a file, what will be the naming convention. So we have mentioned that today we will discuss the naming convention of methods and how we can define some methods within a class. Okay, we know that in a class, so in C programming, whatever we have written in directly in that file. We are not using any class. C doesn't support, it's not object oriented programming, so it doesn't support this. So in C, to manage data, we have structure and union. So using those, we can create some data type and we can use it to work with our data. Now in a class, we have discussed earlier that we have to identify the attributes. Okay, so we have to identify the attributes which will be used to distinguish a class with another class. So each and every class must have some unique attribute, otherwise two class will just coincide, so they will become the same class. Okay, so today we will start from here. So in Java, as we have earlier mentioned, that every method or function needs to be enclosed within a class. We can't write it outside of any class. Okay, so even the main function or main method, this one is being enclosed in a class. Okay, we can't write it outside of any class. Now, but in C++, if you have some idea about C++, some of you, then the difference is in C++, generally the main function is written outside of the class. But based on our requirement, we can define the classes and I can use it. But here in Java, even the main function must be enclosed within a class. Okay. Now, let's try that. As we have mentioned earlier, that for object-oriented programming, there are some principles which are to be followed, like inheritance, polymorphism. Okay, multi-threading is one of the very important feature which is used for developing any application. Now, here we are going to discuss that if we define a class, how a function will be defined within it. Okay, so in structure, in C programming language, when you are defining a structure or union, we can't write a function within the structure or union. But here in object-oriented programming language, we have to define the functions. In Java, we will call it as method. So this method needs to be defined within a class. So the main purpose of these methods are basically to manipulate the data. So if we define a class, like say I have a class book. Okay, book is a class. Now what are the attributes or features by which you can identify a book? So one is name, name of the book. Say the next one is ISBN number. Okay, ISBN is another attribute. Okay, we have authors. There can be multiple authors. That's why I will prefer to use an array. Say in our system, if this system supports only maximum 5 authors, so the size of this array will be 5. Okay, the size of this array will be, sorry, not here. So we have to define this. Okay. Alternatively, you can initialize it during the object creation. So this is the list of authors. Now after that, what are the other attributes? What do you think that what should be the attributes of book
Page
class?
number.
Okay, uh, it will be integer, so say it's number of pages. Okay, so I will prefer to use this one, number of pages, as a variable name, as we have mentioned earlier in the last class that it should be in camel case. Okay, except the first word, for rest of the word it will be in capital, or initial character will be in uppercase. There's something more like number of figures. This is one attribute. I've ignored many important features like year of publishing. Okay, year of one of the important features for a book. If it has multiple volume, then we have to store this information that okay, we can write it in as integer. It's a volume number. Okay, so it's a volume number. Year of publishing, number of pages, number of figures. There will be more than 30 attributes for this book class. So by these attributes we can identify that this is a book. Okay, so in this class we have some attributes which are not generally an attribute of other class. If we consider exercise book, then in that case ISBN number is not there, authors is not there. So ISBN number, author, this volume, year of publishing, this should not be the attributes of exercise book. Okay. So we have to identify the attributes. After identifying these attributes, what will be the next task? So as we have mentioned that when we are defining a class, then their access specifiers, like so here we are defining a class, so we are not using any access specifiers. Here we have to define the methods. The purpose of this method is to work on this data. Okay, so purpose of this method is to work on the data. So we can define some methods here. In C programming language, this is nothing but function. So we can define the methods according to our requirement. Okay. Now other thing is, when we are creating this class book, so from this test main, shall I increase this font size? You are not saying anything. Are you active?
No, sir, it's fine.
Why scroll is not working? So this is main. Now I'm just removing this line, or after that, if I want to create an object, so the thing we have defined here, book.java, so book is a class. If I want to create an object of this class, in C program, when you are defining a structure, if you want to create a variable of this structure, what you have to do? The same thing you have to do here. So I want to create an object of this class book. Okay, I want to create an object of class book. So this book as a variable name in C, then the name of the object, but it's not an object. If some of you are familiar with C++ but not familiar with Java, note it down here that in this way you can create an object in C++, but in Java the object is not being created. It is creating a reference. It's not object creation. It's just a reference creation. Now we have to create an object. So how to create an object? So we can create an object in that way, like new book. This is the syntax to create an object of.
Sir, can you repeat the previous part once again?
Previous one means the difference in
Sir,
C++ and Java.
No, sir, this is object one.
Okay. Book is a class, as we have mentioned. So these are the features. Based on this, we can say that this is a book. So if we define another class, like if I define another class pen, okay. So in this class, what will be the attributes? Like type, okay. So we can write that the string. So different types of pens are there. So you can keep this information, pen. Similarly, you can keep another one as ink, color, okay. So in that way, you can add the attributes which will be used to identify a pen. So pen is a class, book is a class. So we have just defined a class. So if we want to create an object of this class, how to create this object? So to create an object of this class, we have to use this. So new book will create a book object. If I want to create an object of pen, I have to use this. So here an object is being created. So first one is creating an object of book. This one is creating an object of pen. Okay. Now when you are creating this object, then as we have mentioned earlier in the last class, if you can remember, that if you create an object, it will allocate memory for this book. It will allocate a memory for this pen, where this data will be stored. So the values with respect to book and with respect to that specific pen will be stored there. If I want to create another book object, I can create another book object. Okay, but how will you access? How do you access this memory location where this book object has been created? So we have to access it. So we need a reference so that we can reach there. Okay, so we are creating a reference B1. Okay, so when this book object is being created, it is accessible by B1 now. If I create another book, then book object 2, then another book which has been created using this B2 reference, we can access it. If we don't use this first part, if we don't declare a reference and assign it, then it will not be accessible. We have discussed it with respect to pointer in C, okay, in pseudocode class. So we need a reference by which we can access it. That's why we are creating these references. Similarly, for pen class, we have to create a reference of this pen type. Okay, so this is the way how we can create an object. Okay, any confusion still now? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Any doubt?
স্যার সবকটা অবজেক্ট সবসময় মেইন ফাংশনের মধ্যেই রাখতে হবে?
No, not necessary. Just we have started writing our first program. That's why. It is a design. Yeah, just 1 minute. It's a design issue. So if you have an application which you have to design, based on that design, you have to decide that where you have to create which object. Yeah, what's the next?
Sir, in case of C++, the same thing we can do na, মানে if we use structure and yeah, that's মানে একই জিনিস স্যার, ওটা মানে রেফারেন্স তো ওখানেও ক্রিয়েট হয়। মানে আমি যদি একটা স্ট্রাকচারের মতো স্ট্রাকচার কনস্ট্রাক্টর ইউজ করে দেন স্ট্রাকচারটাকে করি, then structure type of variable equals to new of structure type দিলে তো স্যার একইভাবে রেফারেন্সিং হবে। তো ফার্স্টে নিউ দিলে তো ওটা রেফারেন্স হবে, দেন b1 ভেরিয়েবলে ওটা অ্যাক্সেস করা যাবে ওই সেম।
In C++, again you have two different way of creating an object. I'm not going to discuss those things. So if anyone of you are already familiar with those programming languages, just note it that there are some difference. Okay. Now here we have created two objects of book class, one object of pen class. Now this object means the book you have, say this is another book, so this book belongs to me, so I have this book B2 and you have book B1. Okay, and this pen is with you. Okay, so I don't have any pen. So pen is a class. The pen you have or the book you have, that's an object which has real existence. Okay, but if we say chair can be a class. Okay, we can't define a class chair, but chair is not an object still now. Now if I say that the chair in your room, so if you have in your home, if you have 10 chairs, so these 10 chairs are 10 different objects. The chairs we have in classroom, in laboratories, those chairs are objects of that chair class. Okay, so using this we are creating an object. So what is this? Now we have to understand that we have written that if we write new book, then an object of book class will be created. If I write new pen, an object of pen class will be created. So what is book and what is this pen? So this is basically known as constructor. Okay, so in book class, like if you want to build your house based on a building plan you have collected from the civil engineer. Okay, so if you want to build your house at certain location, so first thing is you have to purchase the land. So here we have already created a memory location, so a memory has been allocated, so you can compare it with purchasing the land. Okay, so this is the code segment by which we are creating an object. So that means it allocates a memory for this object B1. Okay, so B1 is referencing to a object. So we have created a memory location. We have allocated the memory for this object B1. After that, so you have to build your house. So just purchasing land is not sufficient. You have to call builder, or you have to call the constructor or construction company. You have to communicate with them. Then you can the space on that land the building will be built. Okay, so here this is the constructor which is responsible for allocating the memory for the object, and if you want to initialize something, that will be initialized by it. So this is the name of the constructor. Okay, so if we have a class book, then in this book class we have not written anything, but if in a class we have not written anything, JVM will provide you the default constructor. Okay, so here JVM is providing us the constructor. Now if I want to define our own constructor, so what will be the syntax? So let me say that the name of the constructor will be same with the name of the class. Name of the constructor should be exactly same with the name of the class. Okay, now if I want to set some value, like if I say name equals to ABC, okay, this is the name. So this value is being set to this variable name or to this attribute name. So now if you create a constructor, if we create an object here, now for each and every book, name will be ABC. So if we want to initialize something, we can write it in this constructor. Its purpose is allocating the memory, initializing some of the variables or all the variables according to requirement. Okay. Now, so let us test it here. So I have created book B1, I have created book B2. Now I want to print. Okay, so I want to print this book information. Say I want to print book name. Okay, so these attributes or members of this class is accessible by this dot operator. So B1 dot name. If I call, I want to print the name for book 2. Okay, name of book 2. So I'm going to run this program. So here you can see for both of this book, name is ABC. Any doubt still now?
No, sir.
Okay.
No, sir.
So now we are going to discuss that if you want to create a book, so whenever you are going to create a book object, then always name of this book will be ABC. But I want to add some other book in my system. So if I want to customize it, that I want to create another book constructor where we are passing name as parameter. So here we are passing name as parameter. So if I pass name as parameter, then let us call it. So during object creation, now we can call another constructor. So say it's book 3 equals to new book, and I am sending some name like C programming. Okay. So if I create this book and if I want to print the name of this book, so B3 dot name. Now when this B3 object is being created, then this book constructor is being called. So which constructor will be called? The second one. So now at this moment in a class we have multiple constructors. So this is one constructor, this is another constructor. Let's test it, then we will discuss. So if I run this program, you can see that the third book name is C programming. Okay, the first and second book is ABC. So we can create multiple constructors in a class. So if we create,
So we can have multiple constructors with the same name.
yeah, constructor name should be always be same with the class name. It will be always same with the class name. So if the name of this class is book, then the name of the constructor should be book. But in object-oriented programming, the advantage is we may have multiple constructors. Okay, so here as we have seen that two constructors are there. Okay, in first constructor it is not receiving any parameter. In second constructor it is receiving a one parameter. I can add some more constructor also. Okay. Like if I want to create another constructor, I'm just reducing my effort, so I'm going to generate the constructor. You can type it. Okay, I want to create a constructor having name, ISBN, volume, year of publishing. Okay. Say this. I'm going to add another constructor. I'll delete it. So another constructor is being added. So in a class, we may define multiple constructor according to our requirement. Now you may think that why the things are required. Like if we consider a library management system where we have to keep this book information. Okay. So when some books will
So
be
how will
purchased,
we differentiate between the different constructors?
differentiate means
Means there are two constructors, so how will call the other one?
I'm coming to that. Okay. You have noticed that when we are calling this constructor, we are not passing any parameter in this constructor. So to which constructor definition it will match, that constructor will be executed. In the second case, when you are calling this constructor, we are passing one string as parameter. So at that time, the second constructor will be called. If I create another object like before, I want to better just a book constructor. I want to remove this line. It will be a little bit complex. I'll show you later. So this is another constructor. So here we are sending two parameters. The first name is name of the book. Okay. So say it's Java programming, and what was the second thing? It's a ISBN number. So say it's 100. Okay. This is the ISBN number. We are creating another object. So when I will call this constructor, which constructor will be called? In this book class we have three constructors, but this parameter is matching with this one. So this constructor will be called. Is it fine? Okay.
So just like method overloading, we overloaded the constructor.
Yeah, I have not used that term. So here, actually, we are overloading the constructor. So this feature is known as overloading. We can define multiple constructor. So always constructor name should be same, because if it's a constructor of book class, the name of this constructor should be same. Okay. So here we are overloading this constructor. Now, what is the need? Why it's needed? Why multiple constructors are needed? What do you feel now? Say in our library, we have given some order to some vendor, so they are supplying these books according to the order. Okay. So when we have received those books, due to shortage of time at the very beginning, we are unable. So we have to enter this information in our system. Data entry operator or the librarian or some other staff of library may enter this information in the system. So when this information will be added, then it may not be possible that for each and every attribute the values are available. So we have purchased some book, name, ISBN, author information, these things will be there. Okay. If that book doesn't have any volume, okay, it's only one book, so no more volume is there. So volume information will be null. Year of publishing will be there, number of pages will be there, but in that book, if we don't have any figure, so number of figures, this field will not be there. Okay. So do you want to pass 0 to set this value? No, instead of that, we can call the constructor where this value will not be passed as parameter. Okay. Even it may happen that due to hurry, the librarian is entering this information in the system. So at that time, he has decided that though all the attributes are to be added in the system, but he has decided that only few of the attributes will be kept for entry purpose. Later on, they will update this information. So only book name, ISBN and author's information will be added at this moment. So later on, when they will get some free time, they will update this information in existing system by adding this volume information, year of publishing, number of pages, and other attributes. Okay, so it may happen. So we need multiple constructors, so that when we are sending some or few parameters to this constructor, according to this parameter list, the values will be updated. For rest of the parameters, we are not updating it during object creation. Later on, we are going to update it. So we can update it later. So this is the purpose of creating an object. Okay, so using a constructor, we can allocate the memory. So we can create an object using this constructor. Just to give you some other example, like if we consider banking system. So if you don't have any account in any bank, so you have decided that tomorrow you have to open a bank account and you have to submit this information to your college. Your account number needs to be submitted. Okay, so you have reached to your local branch. Now after reaching there, you have taken you are carrying some documents with you. Now you are carrying your voter card, then PAN card. Okay, but you are not carrying any other document. You are carrying only these two documents along with your photograph. Okay, so when you are trying to open, when you are talking to some officials of that bank, then they will not agree to open your account because you are carrying only PAN card and voter card. So they will ask for, if we consider that at this moment it's mandatory that Aadhaar card information should be updated. So during opening this bank account, you have to submit this Aadhaar card information, but you are unable to produce it right now. Okay, so will you get a bank account? So whether an object will be created for your account. So account is a class. So your account is an object of that class. Okay, so the object cannot be created. Now if you just request them, so if in our program we have written that without passing this information, like I'm just showing you one example how whatever we are saying, that let us try to understand. Say it's savings account. Okay, to how this class is being defined, say there is a account number, along with account number I have to keep this information, customer name, then many more things will be there, like branch name, branch ID, which is IFSC, address, many things will be there. Just let us simplify it, that we are thinking of customer side. So account number, customer name, then then your address. We have to keep this information like string PAN. I will use lowercase string Aadhaar, then string passport, string voter. Okay, so these are the information we have to submit. Okay, now one customer may come so if I want to open an account, if a customer wants to open an account, which informations are mandatory? Account number will be generated, customer name is mandatory, address of the customer is mandatory, PAN is mandatory, say Aadhaar is mandatory. So if we produce these two information, PAN and Aadhaar, then the object can be created. So we are creating an constructor here, which is, forget about this super, I will discuss it later. So if we create an object, so this is the constructor by which we can create an object. So which information we have to pass as argument to create this object? Account number, customer name, customer address, PAN and Aadhaar. Okay. So now if another customer comes and is asking for opening another account, but he is not carrying Aadhaar, but he is carrying passport. Okay. So we may allow to open this account. Okay. So we may allow to open this account, or just wait. Here we have a problem. I will tell you later. Okay. Now another customer comes with this document: account, address, PAN, passport, and along with this is also submitting other information. Okay. So a customer who is submitting PAN, Aadhaar and passport, the account will be created where all this information will be updated. For another customer is submitting only PAN and Aadhaar. So in that account, only PAN and Aadhaar information will be updated, but passport information will not be there. Okay. So we can create multiple constructors. So is it fine now? Do you understand that why multiple constructors are required?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now if we say that Aadhaar is mandatory to open a bank account, okay, or for that bank they have decided that voter card information will be kept in their system. Okay. But the customer is not carrying this document right now. Whether an object will be created or not. Sometimes you have to understand that when you are going to bank or to any office, you are asking for service. Sometimes even if you are not carrying all the documents, your account is being created or your problem is being solved, but they are saying that please send this document in email within this time. Okay. So if I want to update this voter card information, so during object creation, we have not received voter card information. Now, if I want to update this voter card information, we can define another method. Okay. So I'm going to define a method set voter card information. I am using this editor just to reduce my effort. Please don't do this. Try to type the code from the very beginning, and whatever you are writing, type it. Later on, after 1 month or after 2 months, you can use an editor so that the coding effort is being reduced. So here I want to update voter information. So during object creation, we have not added this information. So we have not taken voter card information from the customer. So later we want to update this information. So we can define a function or method like this one, set voter, then voter information will be taken as parameter in this method and it will be used to update this. Okay, so this is a method. This is, in Java we say it's method, but in C++ in many programming languages, it's known as function. Okay, so this is a method, and these are, we have defined two constructors here. Constructors. Okay. So do you understand the difference between constructor and method? Though it looks like similar, but note that for a constructor there is no return type, but for a function this is the return type. Okay, I will delete this public statement. We have not discussed it earlier, so delete it. So this is, so functions are being used to work with the data. So if we want to update any information, if we want to change any information, then we have to use this method. Even if we want to get some information from an object, we will prefer to use this methods. Okay. So do you understand the difference between constructor and method?
Yes.
Okay. So methods are used for performing operations on the data, but constructors are being used for creating an object and to initialize something. According to requirement, you have to define this constructor.
Hello.
Yeah.
Sir, when we define the constructor, how the memory will managed? Is that মানে যখন কনস্ট্রাক্টরটা বানাচ্ছি তখন কি মানে মেমরি কোনো মানে মেমরি কোনো রেফারেন্স হয় নাকি যখন কল করব তখনই একমাত্র মেমরিটা রেফারেন্সিং হয়ে মানে মেমরিটা অ্যালোকেটেড হয়?
No. I will show these things later when we'll discuss these things, but not at the very beginning. Try to understand the syntaxes first, then we will come to that discussion when we will discuss static and other methods and life cycle of it. So at that time we will discuss that at which time for which segment of the class memory is being allocated. Those things will be discussed. Okay, but leave it right now. We'll discuss it later. So any other confusion? The purpose of the constructor and method? If it's fine, then let's try with some other example.
স্যার
Hmm.
স্যার বলছি যখন আমরা দুটো কনস্ট্রাক্টর করছি আর একটা কনস্ট্রাক্টরে কটা ভ্যালু আছে আর এই কনস্ট্রাক্টরে কটা আছে মানে দুটো ইকুয়াল নয়, তাহলে আমার যেইগুলো মিস হয়ে যাচ্ছে, যেই প্যারামিটারস গুলো মিস হয়ে যাচ্ছে ওইগুলো কি আমার নাল অ্যাসাইন হয়ে যাবে না কিছুই হবে না?
No, the values will be null.
যদি আমার নাল অ্যাসাইন হয়ে যায়
But
তাহলে
not
আমি
for
তো
every data type.
ওকে
If it's integer value, the value will be 0.
ওকে স্যার,
It is
if
dependent
it is
on data type. Yeah.
if it is so why we are not creating only a single constructor and we are passing only the null where there we don't want to pass the values, we can only pass the nulls, and where we can want to pass the values we can give the values?
No. There are some design problems. In this class, we can't discuss with those examples, but if we take one example like a banking system, then during design you will understand that what are the problems.
Okay.
So we can't do it in that way. Now let's come to this problem. Okay, so one question was that how which constructor will be called. So if I call from this previous example, if I call this book constructor, then this constructor is being called. This one, it is not receiving any parameter. If I pass a single string, it will call this constructor. If I pass two strings, it will call this constructor. So these constructors will be called according to the parameters. Now the problem is, if I want to create another constructor, okay, I'm going to create another constructor where first one is ISBN and second one is name. What will happen? It should compile, it should run. The problem is how system will understand that this is the name and this is an ISBN number. If you have written a program, how system will identify that this is name of the book and this is ISBN.
Hello.
So,
Hello.
yeah.
Just start with it, I think.
My screen is
স্টার্ট হয়ে গেছে মানে এক জায়গায় দিয়ে স্টপ হয়ে গেছে সেভিং
চলছে তো
ওকে স্যার দেন ইটস মাই সাইড ওকে স্যার
okay. So how system will understand? So it is not dependent on variable name. It's dependent on number of parameters and their data type. In this case, both of this parameter is string. So first one is string, second one is string. I can't define another constructor with string parameter. Do you understand? So the name, which constructor will be called, it is dependent on the parameters. So parameters means number of parameters or arguments and their data type. Be very careful. It is completely dependent on number of arguments and their data types. Okay. So for which one it will match, then it will execute for that. Like if I create volume number is integer. Okay. So if I say that this is ISBN and second argument is volume. Volume. What is, oh, this one is, I have to change it. Okay. Volume information is being updated. Okay. Now you can see that two parameters are there, two arguments. This constructor receives also two arguments, but their data type is different. The first one is string, second one is string here, this one is string, and this one is integer. Even if number of arguments is same, but if the data type is different, it will work. Similarly, I'm going to add one more constructor here where I will put this volume followed by ISBN. Even it will compile. So for this one, for all these three functions or methods, number of parameter is same, but their data type is different. This one is string, this is string int, and this is int string. Okay. So if we want to call or create an object of the constructor, so if I said, like, if I want to create an object new book, okay, so if I want to create an object, if I use this, then it will call the first constructor we have defined. If I pass this, then second constructor will be called. If I pass this one, name, what was the syntax of third constructor, both are string. So book name and ISBN. Okay, then third constructor will be called, if I pass 12, then it will call this fourth constructor. This information is ISBN and this is volume. So in that case, we are passing ISBN, say it's ISBN number and this is volume number. Okay, so based on your parameter, the corresponding constructor will be called. Is it fine?
Sir, if the parameter, number of parameter and the type of parameter is same for the constructor, so then what will be the case? Means
No,
that book.
In that case, it will not compile.
Okay, sir.
If the number of parameters and the data type of the parameters are in the same order with the same data type, then it will not compile. Okay. Like if I want to add one more constructor here, so instead of ISBN, here I'm going to store number of pages. So this is number of pages. Okay. It will not compile. You can't compile this code because the signature of this constructor and signature of this constructor is same. You can't compile this code. Okay. Why these types of codes are not being compiled? If you want to understand it in detail, then you have to learn compiler design. This is another paper probably you have in final year. Okay.
Sir, we have compiler design this year.
In this year?
Sir, this semester itself.
Okay. Then you will get after few classes you will understand that why these types of codes are not being compiled. Okay. It generates a tree and this tree is ambiguous. So that's why this is not compiling. Okay. If you are writing a program, then hello.
স্যার বলছি পার্স ট্রি পার্টের কথা বলছেন কি মানে পার্স ট্রিটা সেম জেনারেট will be ambiguous.
The parse tree generation will be ambiguous. Okay. So this is not part of this paper. So this is the way how we are creating objects. Now in a class we can define some method. Here we have shown that we have just defined only one method, set voter. So the purpose, then you have to follow the naming convention. So the purpose of this method is to set the value of the voter card information. Okay, so to set the value voter information for this customer. So that can be done using this method. If you want to calculate something, like if you want to calculate interest on your bank account, so that logic you can write in another method. So based on your requirement, you have to decide that what are the methods I should use in my class and what will be the logic of calculation. Always it's not just setting some value or reading some value. It's beyond that. Sometimes some complex logic you have to implement. In C programming language, in first year, you have already learned you have written some program where you have learned that how computational problems are being solved. Similarly, in data structure, you have worked with different data types and different data structures. And finally, in design analysis of algorithm, again, you have implemented many algorithms to solve some specific problems. In an object-oriented programming language, again, you can do that same thing. You can write some complex logic to solve a problem. It's not always focused on data. If you need some computation, then that logic can be implemented there. Okay. So this is constructor. Now so constructor overloading. So this is constructor overloading. Now we have to understand method overloading. Okay. If I want to set some information, like I want to update voter information along with passport information, I can do it. So I want to update voter information along with passport information. Sorry. So I want to update this. So we can also define multiple method having same name, which is not supported in C. Note it. In C programming language, you can't define multiple function by same name. But here we can define multiple method by same name. The concept is again same, that number of parameter and their data type should be different, which is generally we use this term signature of the method. So the signature of this method is only one parameter with data type string. Signature of the second method is two parameters and both are string. Okay. So if the signature of the methods are different, then you can define multiple method having the same name. This feature is known as method overloading, as similar to the constructor overloading. So if we define multiple method having same name, then it's method overloading. But obviously it should satisfy this constraint that the number of parameter and their data type should be different. Just for example, I'm going to, so here we have this provision to update voter information. Okay. Now I'm going to create one object of this. So what's the name? Savings account. So say I'm going to create savings account object of this savings account class. Okay. I want to send some value. So account number, say it's 1. Then customer name, say it's Rahul. Address, PAN, the last one is Aadhaar. Okay. Again, Aadhaar information is in string. So we are creating this object. After creating this object, if I want to update this information, so this object set voter, and I want to pass this voter card information, that my voter card information is this. I want to update this. It will be updated. Before updating it, if I print this value, and after updating it, if I print this value, you will be able to see that this information is being updated. Okay. Now, so using this set voter, we can update this voter information. Now, can I update something like SA dot set voter, and here I'm sending a value 1. Okay. I want to send this integer value. So instead of string, I'm sending integer. It will not compile. if it's an integer, if this method is instead of just set voter, the name can be anything, forget about name. Okay, here this method is receiving one string as parameter, but here when we are trying to pass a string as parameter, that method will be called. But now I'm trying to pass an integer value. Obviously this method, this code will not compile, because this method receives one integer parameter. When we are calling it, we are sending one integer value. So is there any method with this signature? No, there is no such method. So there is no such method which receives integer as a parameter, then it will not compile. So it is dependent on number of parameter and its data type. So if you have any doubt, we can discuss. Any confusion?
স্যার ওখানে সেট ভোটার ফাংশনটাকে কেন মানে তখন ক্রিয়েট করা হলো, খালি এটা ম্যান্ডেটরি বলে?
না, ম্যান্ডেটরি বলতে
মানে সেভিংস অ্যাকাউন্টের যখন ভোটার ইনফরমেশনটা মানে ম্যান্ডেটরি, তো ওখানে যখন সেট ভোটার বলে মেথডটা ক্রিয়েট করা হলো, মানে ওটা কেন ক্রিয়েট করা হলো তাহলে?
Okay, say that in a bank right now many customers accounts are there. Okay, so at this moment, based on the banking policy, still that voter card is not mandatory. Okay, and the banking systems are not keeping this voter card information of the customer. I am assuming, but there are different provision. Okay, I am assuming that voter card information is not being kept by any bank. This information is not being collected from any customer. Just 1 minute please. Hello. তুমি আমাকে একটু পরে কল করবে, মানে 5:30টায় আমি ক্লাস নিচ্ছি। Okay. So here say the banking system, they are not collecting voter card information from the customers. Now due to government policy change or banking policy change, now the banks will collect this information from the customers. How this information will be updated? Will you create a new constructor? If you redefine the constructor, then there will be a huge problem. You are going to change some code, but the code is running in live server. You can't do it. The banking application or banking softwares are already running, so you can't do it in live server. Okay, so you should keep this provision in your system to update this voter information. If I want to update this voter information, earlier even if it was not mandatory, but for the existing customer, how this information will be gathered and it will be used to update their personal information. So up to today, whatever customers we have, or for the bank, whatever customers they have, for those customers voter information is not there. From tomorrow, for new customers, voter information will be added. So object will be created using that constructor where it receives, where voter information is mandatory. Okay, but for existing customer, you have to update the voter information, because for many of the existing customers, voter information is null. So if I want to update this voter information, I need a method. Otherwise, I can't set this value. Okay, so I need a method. So using this method, I can update this value.
Yes, sir, got it.
Okay, one thing, this is not just a Java class. Please try to understand that learning just the syntaxes of Java program. If you want to learn Java, I will complete it in 2 days. Okay, this class will cover many more things. You have to understand designing a software. The name of this paper is not Java programming language, it's object-oriented programming language, and if you check the syllabus, you will understand that what is the topic coverage. Okay. Try to understand that the things are related with designing a software, and if you know object-oriented programming language, any object-oriented programming language, you can design a complex software. All the features and functionalities are there. Okay. Just don't focus on just syntaxes. Okay, anyone, is there any doubt? Okay, so let me show you one thing here. We have used in this program, but we have not discussed the purpose of this keyword, this. Okay, I'm creating a class and say I'm just creating a dummy class A. In this class, I have an attribute X, I have another attribute Y. I will use different data types. X is integer, Y is string. Okay. So if I define a constructor, what will be the constructor? It can be like this. Okay. So if I want to set some value, like I'm passing some value A, okay, not A, say it's P, and second one is Q, and X, the value of X is being set by P, and value of Y is being set by Q. I want to create an object of this class. Forget about it. I'm creating a new class, test. If I want to create an object of this class A, what will happen? Say I want to create an object A1, new A. Okay. So I want to create an object. I'm going to create an object here. If I want to create another object of this class, say the object is A2, new A, second object, and say this value is, this is another object. So we have created two objects of A class. One is A1, another one is A2. Now, after creating this object, if I want to, okay, if I want to create another object A, say it's A3 equals to new A. Is it possible without passing any parameter? Can I create an object? I want to create an object like this. We have created this type of object earlier, like I'm going to previous example. Sorry. In this statement, you can see that we have created this type of object, book, without passing any parameter. But here, we can't create any object in this way. and we notice that we can't create this object. We have defined a class A. Let's check this class. In this class, we have two attributes. We have a constructor. But when we are trying to create an object of this class, in this way we can create this object. But using this technique, we can't create any object.
Sir, if we create a constructor with no parameter, then we can compile that.
Okay, let me delete it. Okay, I don't have any constructor here. Now I will say that this too will not run, obviously, because its equivalent constructor is missing. I have just deleted that constructor, but this one is compiling. But when I am just adding this constructor, then this code is not compiling. So the reason is, if
the actual variable. Hello.
Yeah, hello.
স্যার বলছি ক্লাসের ভেতরে স্যার দিস দিয়ে ওটাকে রেফারেন্স করলে স্যার ওটা রান করবে, কারণ মানে আমরা যখন এখান থেকে কোনো প্যারামিটার পাস না করে করছি তো ওটা কোথায় আপডেট হচ্ছে সেটা তো বুঝতে পারছি না, বাট দিস দিলে ওটা অ্যাকচুয়াল যে প্যারেন্ট যে ভ্যারিয়েবলটা আছে, মেইন যে ভ্যারিয়েবল, সেখানে আপডেট হবে। তো এটার জন্য কি এরকম দিচ্ছে?
ওকে, প্লিজ গাইড মি দ্যাট হোয়ার আই হ্যাভ টু ডু দ্য চেঞ্জেস।
a dot জাভাতে স্যার যদি দিস দিই, সো দ্য
this one here, this dot x and here this dot y.
Yes, sir.
No, the Java expert.
স্যার এ ডট জাভাতে যদি মানে কনস্ট্রাক্টরের মধ্যে আগে থেকে কোনো ভ্যালু ইনিশিয়ালাইজ করা থাকে, মানে আগেরটাতে যেমন এবিসি একটা ইনিশিয়ালাইজ করাই ছিল, তো ওখানেও যদি এক্স আর ওয়াই দুটোই ওই ক্লাসটার মধ্যে আছে, তো দুটোরই ভ্যালুকে ইনিশিয়ালাইজ করলে তখন সেটা রান করতে পারে।
Okay, you are saying that if I set this value, okay, just 1 minute. If I set this value like, in that case it will not compile. No, again it will not compile. Yeah.
স্যার আই থিঙ্ক যদি আমরা ওই এ যখন আমরা ডিক্লেয়ার করে দিচ্ছি, একটা কনস্ট্রাক্টর যখন আমরা নিজে থেকে ডিক্লেয়ার করে দিচ্ছি, তখন আমাদের ওই ডিফল্ট কনস্ট্রাক্টর ওভাররাইড হয়ে যাচ্ছে, আর যখন আমরা করছি না তখন আমাদের ডিফল্ট কনস্ট্রাক্টর কল হচ্ছে, তাই আমাদের কিছু পাস করতে হচ্ছে না।
Yeah, the reason
Override.
is, yeah, not overriding. Overriding, in case of overriding, all the constructors are present. It's not overriding. The thing is, but the point is same, that we should not use the term overriding. The thing is, when you are defining a constructor, then that constructor can be used. But if you do not define any constructor within a class, JVM provides the default constructor. If you do not define any constructor in a class, JVM will provide you the default constructor. Default constructor means it will not receive any parameter or argument, and all the values of the attributes of that class will be set by default value. So if we do not define any constructor, then default constructor will be provided by JVM. But if you define only one constructor like this one, or more than one constructor, then default constructor is not being provided by JVM. If you define any constructor in a class, default constructor will not be provided. And if we don't have default constructor, then here we are trying to call the default constructor, but this constructor doesn't exist in this class, so it will not compile. So if we say, sorry, what happened? Just a minute, please. Okay, now here, if we pass, my god, insert button add হয়ে গেছে। Okay, now if I write this, then the corresponding constructor is there. So integer string, so it will compile. So as the default constructor has been withdrawn by the JVM, as we have defined a constructor, if you need a constructor without parameter, you have to define it here. Okay, you have to define. Okay. Now if you define a constructor but you don't have any logic, you don't have any assignment operation or anything, it's a blank constructor. So in that case, now you can call the constructor, say it's a equals to new a. Now you can call that constructor. So default constructor is not being provided by JVM. As we have defined the constructor, this constructor is this one which we have defined. This is not default constructor. Okay, any doubt? Now we are coming to this operator. Okay, so I'm just removing, just making it very simple, and I'm just removing these things. Say I have only one variable, I'm not writing this, it's x equals to p, the value of p which is being received as parameter, that is being set to x. Okay, now here I want to create an object a, so the constructor will receive one parameter. I can create an object in that way. Any problem with this syntax? So we have defined a constructor here. This constructor is receiving an integer parameter and this value is being set. So if I create an object here, I'm going to create an object here. After creating this object, let us try to print this value. So I want to print this value a dot x, the value of x I want to print. What will be the output? 1.
So 0, I think.
No, it's 1. Okay. So what you are thinking, I can understand. Okay, so now if I run this program, this value is 10. So the value which we are setting as parameter or argument to this constructor, that value is being set to this variable. So the value of p equals to 10 at this moment, the value of, let me show you, that the value of, from this constructor call, we are passing 10 as parameter. So this is being received by p, the value of p equals to 10. So x is being assigned by the value of p. So x equals to, the value of x is assigned by p. So the value of x equals to 10. Run this program again and test. The value is 10. Okay. Now if I write this variable as x and this is as x, what will happen? This value, I'm setting this value 10. So 10 is being received by this x. So the value of x equals to 10. Now this x is being used to update this variable x. So what will be the output now? Now the output is, expected output is 10, but actual output is 0. Okay. The reason is local variable gets higher priority. here this variable is local variable x. X is local to this constructor. So this x is again local to this constructor. This is local. When I'm trying to print a dot x, this x is this one, but this x is local variable. Okay, so the value 10 is not being updated to this one. It is not being updated to the variable declared in line number 3. The changes are being made here. So if I want to print this value here, the value of x will be 10. But in the next line, while a dot x will be printed, still this value is 0. So when this line is being executed, this value is 10. But when this line is executed, this value is 0. Okay. If we use different name, then it's not a problem. Like if I say it's p again. Now this x represents the instance variable. But if you have same variable name locally in a method or in a constructor, then it's not an instance variable. To represent instance variable, in that case, you have to write this operator. So this dot x, this dot name of the variable. Okay. Now the output is 10 for both of these cases. So if we have a local variable whose name is same with the instance variable, then within that method, whatever logic you will write, then the name of this variable will always represent to the local variable of that method or constructor. If you want to point to the instance variable, obviously you have to use this operator. So this is basically representing the current object. The current object dot x, this is the reference. Using this reference, you can access the instance variable. Be very careful when you are developing any complex application. In future, you will not do this type of mistake, obviously. In first few classes, you will do this mistake. Any confusion? Okay. Now, let's come to, so any confusion related to method overloading and constructor overloading?
No, sir.
Okay. I'm going to show you one more thing. As in C lab, you have written that kind of code. When you are defining a structure, can you declare or define a structure within a structure? We can define in a structure, we can define. Okay, so here within a class, if we want to define another class like B, I want to define this class within this one. Okay. Say the name of this variable is y. So in A class, member is x, in B class, member is y. I have to show you the compilation of the code from terminal. Okay. Oh my god. I have not installed JDK in my system and this system. Sorry. I can't show you right now. For installation, it will take some time. Eclipse is using its internal JDK. Sorry for that. Please just can you just remind me on the next class so that I can show you. I want to show you that the name of the class, even if B is an inner class, another different class will be created. You can understand it by its name. So after compilation, the two dot class files will be generated. One is A dot class, another one is not exactly B dot class. This name will contain the name of the super class also. I'll show you on the next class, this part. Okay. And which members are accessible, those things will be discussed during access specifier. So this is the class and object. So is it fine now that what is class and what is object?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Today maybe you are tired, so I don't want to continue anymore. The next day we'll start from here. Okay. Now let me check that how many of you are present. Turn on your camera. All of you. You have been already informed. Please take it seriously. Okay, if anyone is there who is not attending the classes, if you can learn it yourself, then it's not a problem. But during evaluation, if your performance is poor, then it will be very difficult to track by ourselves. In this year, again, I'll not discuss it in right now, but the thing is, the students are not getting job as per our expectation. Okay, so you can turn it off, no problem. Okay, so please be very careful. We would expect that everyone will be placed in campus interview. Take these things seriously. You have only approximately 8 to 9 months in your hand before placement begins. Okay, I will take your attendance. Please give me 1 more minute. Okay, fine. If you have any query, then you can stay here, otherwise you may leave. Anyone, do you have any query? Okay, if you don't have any query, it's fine. But within first few classes, I need feedback so that I can manage accordingly. It should not be like Ashutosh is present, then who are the other seers? Shreya, is she present?
Yes, sir, present.
Shreya is present. Seers from second section 1.
Yes, sir, present.
We are not taking official feedback right now, but I need your feedback so that whether I'm moving fast or slow. Okay, talk to your batchmates and please inform me so that I can go ahead in that way. I can plan accordingly. Because first few classes are very crucial. Okay, then I'm going to end this session. Okay, bye.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay, bye.
Thank you, sir.